Let me take you to a moment few speak of openly. Imagine sitting in silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that echoes with everything you've tried to avoid your whole life. Memories, feelings, regrets, shame, guilt, they start to whisper, then scream. You close your eyes, trying to find light, but the darkness rises instead. It creeps in slowly at first, then floods your awareness. You feel like you're drowning in your own psyche, and in that moment you realize something terrifying. The darkness isn't outside of you, it is you, or at least part of you. That's where the real spiritual journey begins. We've all been told to seek the light, to be kind, to be good, to be positive. But no one taught us what to do with the parts of us that don't fit that image. The anger, the envy, the craving, the thoughts we're ashamed to admit even to ourselves. So we bury them, we suppress, we pretend. But they don't die, they grow. And the more we avoid them, the more power they gain. This is the truth most spiritual teachings skip. Light alone is not enough. You cannot reach true peace by ignoring your darkness. You must make peace with it. But how do you make peace with what you fear? How can you embrace what you've spent your whole life running from? The first step is to realize this: your darkness is not evil. It is not your enemy. It is misunderstood energy. It is unprocessed pain. It is love that got twisted into control, wounds that hardened into defense. Your darkness is the part of you that wasn't seen, wasn't nurtured, wasn't allowed to be. And so it adapted, it hid, it screamed in silence. What if, instead of judging it, you listened? Making peace with your inner darkness doesn't mean giving into it. It means understanding it, seeing it, holding it in the light of presence. You do not become less light by facing your shadow, you become more whole. The truth is, there is no light without shadow. A candle can't cast light unless there's a contrast. The deeper your darkness, the brighter your light can shine if you're willing to integrate. That's the key word, integrate, not eliminate. The soul does not seek perfection, it seeks wholeness. You may ask, what does my darkness even look like? It's different for all of us. For some, it's rage buried under politeness. For others, it's self-hatred disguised as humility. It may be the need to control, the desire to manipulate, the hunger for validation. It may be the part of you that fears being seen, so you sabotage anything good. It may be the pain that keeps you addicted to drama, to suffering, to chaos. Whatever form it takes, your darkness is a mirror. It shows you where you are still in bondage, where you are still not free. We live in a culture that shames darkness. That says, be positive, smile, be grateful. And yes, gratitude is powerful. But forced positivity is spiritual bypassing. It creates a split inside you where part of you pretends and part of you festers. True spiritual maturity is not about pretending to be enlightened. It's about being radically honest, saying, yes, I feel jealous. Yes, I feel lost. Yes, I want to hurt. And I choose to sit with that part of me, not run from it. That's where transformation begins. When you sit with your darkness without judgment, something miraculous happens. It begins to soften. It begins to speak. It says, I was trying to protect you. That rage you carry, it started as a boundary that was never respected. That fear of abandonment, it started the day someone you loved left without explanation. That bitterness, it came from a time your trust was shattered. You begin to see your darkness isn't a monster. It's a wounded child wearing armor. Can you love that child? There is a profound power in shadow work. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with fireworks or cosmic downloads. It's raw. It's vulnerable. It's sitting in your room, tears streaming down your face, whispering, I forgive you to yourself. It's writing letters you'll never send. It's screaming into a pillow, not because you're weak, but because you're finally letting the pressure out. It's choosing to stay present when every part of you wants to numb out. That's spiritual courage. Let me ask you something deep. What part of yourself are you most afraid others will see? That's your shadow. That's the part you've labeled unlovable. But what if that very part is the doorway to your power? What if your sensitivity, your rage, your intensity, your trauma, what if all of it is sacred fuel for your awakening? Not in spite of, but because of what you've endured. The path of light is not above the darkness, it is through it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We often seek light as escape, as relief. But light without depth becomes shallow. Real light has depth because it has faced the night. It has walked through the fire. It has sat in the void. When you integrate your darkness, your light becomes unshakable. It's not the kind of light that flickers in the wind. It's the kind that glows from within like molten gold forged in pressure. That's the light that heals others, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Many people fear that if they look too closely at their darkness, they'll be consumed by it. But the opposite is true. What you look at with love loses its control over you. Your fear isn't dangerous, your avoidance is. The moment you turn and face what you've been running from, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your unconscious. You become the conscious creator of your reality. That's not just spiritual, it's revolutionary. We must also realize that darkness is not a single event. It's a landscape, a terrain within us that we must learn to navigate. You don't conquer it once and for all. You build a relationship with it. You check in. You say, what are you feeling today? You ask what needs to be expressed. You listen. You hold space. And through that ongoing dialogue, you become whole. You become trustworthy to yourself. This trust is everything. Without it, your spiritual growth is fragile. You may be able to perform well, speak beautifully, impress others, but inside you feel hollow, because part of you still believes you're unworthy, unlobable, broken. That belief is the seed of all self-sabotage, and it can only be healed by facing the part of you that believes it, not shaming it, not ignoring it, facing it. That's what making peace with your inner darkness truly means. So ask yourself this: if I were to stop pretending, stop performing, stop hiding, what would I have to face? What truths would I have to admit? What pain would I have to feel? That's where your work is. That's where your freedom lives. Not in the light you chase, but in the shadow you fear. And when you make peace with that place, something awakens in you. Not a new version, but a more authentic one. A version that doesn't need to be light all the time because it has become whole. To truly make peace with your inner darkness, you must understand a fundamental truth. Darkness and light are not enemies. They are partners in the dance of your becoming. The spiritual path is not about choosing one over the other, but learning how to integrate both so that they serve your highest self. If you try to destroy your darkness, you will inadvertently destroy a part of your humanity. And if you ignore your light, you will lose the compass that guides you forward. The real mastery lies in holding both at once: your pain and your peace, your wound and your wisdom. You may ask, how can I hold both without being torn apart? The answer is presence. When you are fully present with what is, without trying to fix it or change it, you begin to witness your experience instead of being consumed by it. Presence creates spaciousness. And within that space, something sacred happens. The darkness begins to soften, and the light begins to stabilize. You become the container, the temple where both can coexist. You no longer need to choose between being spiritual and being real. You become both. Integration is not about balance in the way most people think. It's not about 50% light, 50% dark. It's about harmony. It's about giving each part of you what it needs in the moment. Sometimes that means letting yourself cry for hours without judgment. Other times it means stepping into your power and refusing to let the past define you. You begin to learn when to feel deeply and when to rise above, when to surrender and when to act. This intuitive discernment is born from wholeness, not fragmentation. There's a sacred discipline in shadow work. It's not chaotic. It's not reckless. It's intentional. You create safe containers for your darkness to be expressed. You write unsent letters. You scream into a pillow. You dance your rage. You cry your grief. You don't unleash your shadow on others, you honor it in sacred space. This is how you prevent your shadow from hijacking your life. You give it a voice, but not the steering wheel. You let it speak, but not dictate your path. One of the most powerful tools for integration is self-inquiry. Ask yourself, what am I judging in myself right now? What part of me feels unworthy of love? What emotional pattern keeps repeating in my life? And what is it trying to teach me? These questions are doorways. They take you deeper. They reveal the unconscious beliefs running your life. And when you bring those beliefs into awareness, you have the power to rewrite them. That's not just healing, that's liberation. But be warned, the ego will resist this work. The ego wants control, certainty, superiority. It wants to stay in the light and pretend the darkness doesn't exist. It wants to be right, not whole. It wants to blame, not take responsibility. So when you start to integrate your shadow, your ego will panic. It will fight. It will try to distract you with perfectionism, overthinking, or spiritual bypassing. You must see through these patterns with compassion. You must say to your ego, I see you. I understand you, but we're doing something different now. This is not easy work. At times it will feel like you're unraveling, like you're losing your mind, like you're going backwards. But what's actually happening is deconstruction. You are shedding the false self, the persona you built to survive, the masks that kept you safe but also kept you small. And beneath all of that, you will find something astonishing, your soul. Not the concept of your soul, the felt experience of it. The raw, radiant, unfiltered truth of who you are. And that truth is not either light or dark. It is beyond duality. It is the awareness that can witness both without being consumed by either. This is the space of the awakened heart, the third space, the middle path, where you're no longer reactive but responsive, no longer ruled by your wounds but informed by your wisdom. You stop trying to fix yourself and start relating to yourself with kindness. You stop trying to be perfect and start being real. Let me ask you something deeply personal. What part of you have you silenced because you thought it made you unlovable? That's the part that holds your gold. That's the part that, when met with love, will become your greatest ally. Because the shadow doesn't want to hurt you, it wants to be integrated. It wants to belong. It wants to serve. But it can only do that when it's seen, felt, and reclaimed. Not through force, through compassion. Another powerful practice is visualization. Imagine your shadow as a figure. Maybe it's a younger version of you. Maybe it's a dark shape. Maybe it's an animal. Whatever form it takes, sit with it. Ask it, what do you need from me? Listen, really listen. Maybe it says, I need you to stop pretending. Or, I need to express the anger I've held in for years. Or even, I need you to stop abandoning me every time I feel too much. Whatever it says, don't judge it. Respond with love. This is how we reparent ourselves. This is how we heal. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. You will be tempted to numb, to escape, to return to the safety of only light. But remember this: the shadow you avoid becomes the fate you repeat. The emotions you suppress become the behaviors that sabotage you. The wounds you ignore become the patterns that define you. But the moment you turn toward them with love, everything begins to change. Not overnight, not all at once, but steadily, deeply, truly. You must also redefine your relationship to pain. Pain is not your enemy, it is your messenger. It is the sacred alarm system of the soul. When you feel emotional pain, it means something in you is calling for attention, something old, something raw, something real. And when you ignore it, it's louder. But when you sit with it, breathe into it, feel it fully, it begins to dissolve. Not because it's fixed, but because it's finally been heard. Healing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like breaking. like chows, like regression. But that's because you're dismantling structures that were never built on truth. You're letting go of false identities, toxic patterns, inherited beliefs. That process is messy, but it's also sacred. You are not falling apart, you are falling into yourself. You are not losing your light, you are reclaiming it from the places you abandoned it. You see, your light is not the opposite of your darkness. It is the awareness that holds both. When you integrate, you stop swinging between extremes. You stop being either the hero or the victim, the saint or the sinner. You become something deeper, the witness, the soul, the sacred observer. And from that place, you can finally choose, not from fear or ego, but from truth. Let me ask you this: what would your life look like if you were no longer afraid of your own depth? If you could face anything inside you with compassion, what would become possible? What kind of love would you be able to receive? What kind of power would you embody? That's what's at stake here, not just healing, but freedom. Not just peace, but authenticity. Not just light, but clarity. And when you reach that place, something miraculous happens. You become a lighthouse. Not because you shine all the time, but because you've made peace with the storm. You're no longer afraid to feel, to face, to fall. And so others feel safe in your presence. You don't need to fix them. You simply be, and your being becomes healing. That's the mark of a truly awakened soul. Now we turn to the final layer of this sacred path: what it means to live through your integration, to walk as a being who has made peace with their inner darkness without losing their light. This is where the real work begins, not in retreat, not in meditation alone, but in the world, in relationships, in decisions, in the moments when your shadow is triggered and your light is tested. The question is no longer, how do I escape my darkness? It becomes, how do I embody my truth when my darkness rises? That is the final alchemy. To live in wholeness means to carry your tools with you, not physical tools, but inner ones. Awareness, compassion, discernment, responsibility. You begin to notice your reactions not as failures, but as invitations. When you feel jealousy, you listen. When you feel anger, you investigate. When you feel insecurity, you hold yourself gently. You stop trying to be good, and you start being honest. You stop judging your humanity, and you start honoring it. You realize that your darkness is not something to get rid of, it's something to relate to. Like a wild animal that lives in your forest. It doesn't need to be tamed, only respected. If you ignore it, it will lash out. If you suppress it, it will find another way to speak. But if you honor it, if you give it space to breathe, it becomes your ally. It becomes the part of you that says no when you've been too passive, the part that protects your boundaries, the part that demands truth. Your inner darkness, once integrated, becomes your strength, but you must always stay awake. Integration is not a one-time event. It is a way of living. Every day you are offered a choice: to respond from your shadow or from your soul, to react from your pain or from your presence, to run or to sit. And the more you choose presence, the more natural it becomes. You begin to rewire your nervous system. You begin to feel safe in your body even when old emotions rise. You begin to trust yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And this presence changes everything. It changes how you love. You no longer seek relationships to complete you, you create relationships that reflect your wholeness. You no longer need someone to fix your wounds, you want someone who respects your healing. You no longer abandon yourself to be accepted, you choose to be seen as you are, even if it scares you. This is what real love is. Not fantasy, not rescue recognition, union through truth. You also begin to lead differently. You don't lead from superiority. You lead from embodiment. You don't pretend to have it all together. You show others that it's okay to be in process, that it's okay to feel rage, grief, doubt, and to still be deeply spiritual. That being awake doesn't mean being above, it means being within, grounded, real. You become the kind of leader the world needs, not flawless, but fearless in your authenticity. Let me ask you something that could shift everything. What if your darkness was never meant to be destroyed, but understood? What if the parts of you that you've disowned are the very keys to your purpose? What if the wound you carry is the exact place through which others will be healed? Not by you fixing them, but by you being the living proof that wholeness is possible, that freedom is real, that light does not mean perfection, it means presence. This is where we remember the ancient truth. Your soul chose this path. Your soul chose this incarnation, this body, these wounds, these trials, not to punish you, but to awaken you. Your darkness is not a mistake. It is the curriculum. It is the sacred soil in which your light grows. And once you stop resisting it, you begin to harvest its gifts. You begin to walk with a quiet power, a sacred authority, not loud or boastful, but undeniable. And yes, the world will test you. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged by those who are still afraid of their own shadow. You will be called too much, too intense, too emotional. But that doesn't matter anymore, because you know who you are. You've sat in the fire and found gold. You've walked through your own hell and discovered heaven inside it. You are no longer seeking permission to exist. You exist fully, freely. There's a moment on the path when you stop trying to transcend your humanity and you start inhabiting it. You stop trying to rise above and you sink into your breath, into your heart, into this moment. You realize that the divine is not somewhere out there, it's here, in your body, in your tears, in your joy, in your rage. And when you stop pushing away parts of life, you stop pushing away parts of yourself. You begin to see the divine in everything, not just in temples or sunsets, but in heartbreak, in confusion, in the slow, gritty process of becoming. You understand that light is not the absence of darkness, it is the willingness to meet it with love. That's the highest form of spirituality. Not floating above, but walking through with your eyes open and your heart intact. And eventually you stop needing to prove anything. You stop needing to be more spiritual, more healed, more anything. You just are. And in that being, there is a light that doesn't flicker, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a power that doesn't dominate but liberates. You become the quiet storm, the grounded mystic, the one who can sit with pain and still sing, the one who can witness the chaos and stay clear. So ask yourself this final question: who am I when I stop running from any part of myself? Who do I become when I accept my full spectrum? Not just the light I show the world, but the dark I've hidden from myself. What kind of love do I attract? What kind of art do I create? What kind of world do I help build? That is the invitation of this work, not just to heal, but to create from wholeness. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are a soul remembering its fullness. You are a being learning to hold paradox. You are the storm and the calm, the fire and the stillness. And the more you embrace every part of you, the more others will remember that they can do the same. That's how we change the world. Not by pretending to be light, but by becoming whole. So walk forward now, not in fear, but in remembrance. The darkness within you is not a curse, it is a call. And your light is not a shield, it is a song. Sing it, live it, be it. And watch what happens when the world meets a soul that is no longer at war with itself.